This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you, to the glory of God, and to the benefit of all those who listen. Well, praise God, and welcome to session number 5 of Voiceover In and Out. Session 5 today. We are going to begin to take a look at one of the fundamentals, one of the predictable patterns that we described. I told you that there would be a lot of those throughout the course, throughout iOS. We would see predictable patterns, and if we can learn those patterns, we will be able then to successfully navigate just about anywhere, any app, any website, and so on. And more specifically, today, we're going to start talking about a particular kind of pattern known as the tabbed app, meaning with tabs, tabbed, T-A-B-B-E-D. And so we're going to look at apps that have tabs, 2 in particular, but we may not get quite through all that because there's something else we also need to talk about today, and that is how to set up a proper contact card. That may not seem like something we need to cover this early, but it actually really is. It's something we need to describe and discuss from the very beginning so that you are aware of how to set one up, and we'll explain and kind of demonstrate some of the importance of that. And so I actually think that's where we're going to begin today, is with talking about proper contact cards. Now, your device should know who you are, and that's going to make things significantly easier when you are attempting to use your device to autofill contact information. It will save a lot of time if you're trying to fill out a form online. It also will allow you to specify people who are related to you, maybe wife, husband, children, parents, and so on, and other relatives, and to even provide information about those people so that, for example, I can now use SIRI, and I gave this example before. I asked, when is my son's birthday? And you might remember that Siri was able to answer me and tell me exactly when my son's birthday was. Let's try it with my daughter, just to show you another example. When is my daughter's birthday? Actually, I need to put the original sound on before I do that. So let me fix that first. I apologize there, because you're not going to hear it very well if I don't do that.
So microphone done button. Speech
okay. All right. So we'll try that again now. I'm going to ask when my daughter's birthday is, and you'll hear it. When is my daughter's birthday?
Kylie Valbrecht's birthday is 291 days away on August 7th.
You can see how useful this is. I can ask for phone number information. That way I can say something like, call my daughter, call my son, send a message to my wife, whatever. You can use these kind of phrases. All of this is dependent upon having the contact information properly set up in your contact card. That is also, as I said, going to make it significantly easier when you're trying to autofill contact information. In other words, maybe you have a form online that asks for your name, your address, your phone number, all of these, maybe even your birthday. And if that information is properly set up in your contact card, it's going to make autofill a lot easier. So you don't have to manually type that information in when you're browsing the web and filling out forms. It also will help just in the sense of keeping your contacts organized so that when you go to place a phone call or send a text message using either the phone app or the messages app, it will be a lot easier to find the people you're trying to get in touch with. A lot of people prior to the iPhone, really just used their recents as their address book. And of course, that is very disorganized and potentially problematic. I would go a step further than that and say that as folks who use assistive technology, I think we've sort of had a lot of, over the years, probably shortcomings in many of our contacts. I mean, I remember using the, what was it first? I guess the telesensory braille mate when I was a kid. And the phone book on there only had four fields. It had name, phone number, address, and what it called memo. There really wasn't a lot you could put in there. And then, there were devices like the Parrot Voice Mate and some others that were a little bit better, but it was still very, very subjective, and people didn't really teach us how to, enter proper contact information. And so you would do weird things like you'd only put a first name, or you'd, put a contact and you'd call it mom and dad, because they're together, they live in the same house, they have the same home phone number, the same address, and it really is very potentially problematic. As I said, it doesn't create a very good contact list. So here are the rules for the best contact card, right? What we would call a proper contact card. Every contact card should be specific to one person. That's rule number one. Every contact card should be specific to one person. Now, if you have, let's say, a married couple, like your maybe mom and dad, or any, maybe your son and daughter-in-law, or whatever the case may be, they're going to have some shared information, right? Their home address is going to be the same. If they still have a landline, maybe their home phone number is going to be the same. But they're each going to have their own cell phone. They're each going to have probably their own email address. Most times people do. Not always, but most times. They'll have different jobs and work information and so on. So what we would do is we'd still create a separate card for each person. You say, well, but they're going to have some of the same information. That's okay. You can have more than one contact card with some of the same information. But the important thing is to designate them as two separate people by creating a separate contact card for each person. That's rule number one. Rule number two is to make sure that every contact card that you create has a first and a last name. The only exception to that is if you're adding a company name and you don't really have an individual person that you always contact at that company. So if I put Apple Incorporated, I'm not going to have a person's name. I'm just going to use the company field, and I'm going to leave the first and last name fields blank entirely, right? If I put in a phone number for any business, a local restaurant, a company of any sort, all of that is going to be a separate, it's only going to be the company field. We're not going to mess with the first and last names at all. We'll leave those empty. We'll leave them blank. But beyond that, when we're dealing with individual people, every contact card should have a first and a last name. And I really make a point of asking people, I get to know somebody in a random situation maybe, and I want to add them to my contacts. I'll say, can I ask what your last name is, right? Because it really does make the contact complete. So you want to add a first and a last name. And then if you have a company that you also want to add, you can do that. And then you're going to want to add at least one phone number or email address or method of contact for that person. And I'm going to show you that you can choose which kind, if it's an iPhone, if it's a home phone, if it's some other mobile phone, the same thing with the address. Is it a home address, a work address, whatever. And so then you have the options of adding a lot of additional information. You can have multiple phone numbers, right? Maybe somebody's got a home, iPhone, work, other, and you can even create custom labels for phone numbers, right? And then same thing with email addresses. You can have multiple email addresses, multiple websites, multiple physical addresses. There's a lot of stuff you can add. You can also specify related names, which is how we know that the device can tell us when my daughter's birthday is or when my son's birthday is. We can indicate that a certain person is my son or my daughter. We can specify their birthdays in the contact cards as well. And this is very, very important also. The proper way to add birthdays to your iPhone is not to put them on the calendar, but rather to put them in the contact card for that specific person. They will then show up on the calendar, on a special birthdays calendar. And that's really the proper way to do it. So there's a lot of options that you have in the contacts when you're in the contact cards when you're creating them or editing them later. And I would highly encourage you to take some time to go through your contact cards. You know enough information already from what we've taught in the first 4 sessions about how to navigate, how to type, and so forth, that you can look through your contact cards and figure out which ones are properly set up based on what I've told you and which ones are not, and then to fix the ones that are not. The question is, where do we do this? Where do we find these contacts? Well, you actually have 2 options. You have a contacts app on your iPhones, whether you think that you do or not. There is actually a contacts app. It sometimes is hidden in a folder called utilities. Some models it used to be called extras, but most times now it's utilities. And so you can go into that folder and you can open contacts. You can tell SIRI to launch contacts. The other way to do it is to open the phone app, and you'll find that contacts is one of the tabs in the phone app. We didn't talk about tabbed apps yet. I said we'd start on that today, so we will. But I'm going to just go ahead and use the contacts app because that way we don't have to even concern ourselves with the tab view yet. And as I said you can do, I'll use our friendly personal assistant here. Launch contacts.
Launch contact 2:20 p.m.
Okay, so
Status RI contacts active. Back button.
Now,
Back button.
there's a back button because the contacts app supports what is known as lists, and what are known as lists. Lists are groups of contacts that are related in one way or another. So, for example, maybe you want to create a special list of contacts just for your family, or maybe you have a specific list of contacts for some sort of a group that you're in, maybe an organization, maybe a church group, maybe some other kind of a soccer team, or just some group that meets on a regular basis, and you need to send them emails or whatever the case may be, and you want to organize them that way. So this app also allows you to create lists. If I go back, I will see
Cap B. Back button. Edit button.
and the edit button is going to allow us, well, I'm not even going to get into that right now, but if I swipe to the right,
Lists. Heading.
you can see that this is my section here of lists,
Add list button.
and I can add a new list.
All contacts. 499 contacts button.
So that's one of my lists. It has almost 500 contacts on it, and it is called All Contacts. That's just probably the default list that's there.
iCloud button. Expanded.
Now, under iCloud, you will see,
All iCloud. 499 contacts button.
notice that's the same as my All Contacts list. And so all of my contacts are in iCloud, which is what I want. And notice it said actions available. If I swipe up or down,
Export. Activate. Default.
I can export that. Let's go to the right, see what else.
Family. 3 contacts button. TTJ. 7 contacts. TTJ Gold members. 13 contacts. TTJ
So
Gold members.
you can see that I have
13
multiple
contacts.
lists here,
TTJ Gold.
and these lists are comprised of contacts that are also going to be in my all list, of course, but they're in this other list like TTJ Gold members, so I can just send an email directly to all of those members and so on. So you can create lists later. We're not really going to get into that too much now. The other thing, and I always hesitate how much to talk about contact accounts, and I always come to the same conclusion. If I don't talk about it at all, I may be underserving some people who really need to hear about it. And so if what I'm about to say doesn't make sense to you or goes completely over your head, I apologize. Just bear with us for a moment, and then I'll get back to the other stuff. But for some people, you really need to hear this. You notice that I have all of my contacts in iCloud, and it said all contacts 499, and then the number of all iCloud contacts is the same. It's 499. That means that all my contacts are going to sync using iCloud. Now, some people have their contacts in other places. For example, if you have a Microsoft Outlook account for work or something, or a Google account, it is possible that your contacts are in Google or Outlook and not in iCloud. Now, that doesn't mean they won't sync across devices because Google and Outlook both have syncing capabilities as long as you have all of those accounts on each of your devices. What I've run into numerous times, and I really do mean numerous, I'm not being hyperbolic or exaggerating that greatly. I really mean quite a number of times. I have had customers, and it is not always contacts. Sometimes it's calendar, sometimes it's, notes or something else. Typically it's contacts or calendars. And somebody will call and they'll say to us, my contacts aren't syncing. Well, what do you mean? Well, I have 82 contacts on my iPhone, but I only have 67 on my iPad. The first question I always ask them, and to my knowledge, it's always been the right question to ask, is I say to them, are you using more than one kind of account for your contacts or your calendars? And sometimes they don't know, but we research it, and or sometimes they do know, and the answer is always yes. It's, well, I have Google and I have iCloud, or I have Outlook and I have iCloud. And sure enough, what we discover then is that on one of those devices, they didn't add that Google account or that Outlook account, or they didn't have it turned on. And that's why all the contacts are not showing up. So here's what I'd like to say about this right now. Your iPhone and iPad and your Apple devices can support multiple email accounts. iCloud being part of your Apple account, which we talked about last week, but you can also add Google accounts for like Gmail addresses. You can add Outlook accounts and so on, and other kinds of email accounts to your device. We haven't shown you how to do that yet. For those people who want to work ahead, you go under Settings, you go to Apps, and you go to Mail, and there you can go to Accounts and you can add accounts. That's fine. But a lot of accounts, what you may or may not know is that when you add certain types of email accounts, like Google, for example, those kinds of accounts can also handle calendar syncing, contact syncing, and sometimes even reminders and notes syncing. And so what that means effectively is that you have to then choose. So what I always recommend to people is use iCloud whenever it's possible. And that's what I do. I do have a Google account. I do have a Gmail address because when I got YouTube, you needed it. And my understanding is you no longer do. But when I signed up for a YouTube channel, you needed to have a gmail.com address in order to use YouTube signed in and create, a channel and so on. So I absolutely have a Google account. But when I added that Google account to my settings, I turned off contacts, calendars, notes, anything but mail is turned off. So I don't even have an option of adding anything to my Google contacts or calendars unless I would go to the web to gmail.com or download like the Google Calendar app or something, which why? It would make no sense to do that. So the other thing is that, some people maybe have an Outlook account for work or something. Well, you have the same choice, right? You can turn on calendars, you can turn them off, you can turn, Now, why would somebody potentially need that? Well, some people might. Let me give you an example. My wife is a teacher. Their school district has their own website and email addresses at that school district domain. You understand, like your name at school district dot whatever. Okay, they have that. But they are using Google servers on the back end to provide those custom email addresses. They use a feature called Google Workspace. Years ago, it used to be called G Suite. Some of you might remember that name, but it's Google Workspace now. And that's how they're able to get their own custom domain email. A lot of businesses do that because they don't want to spend the money on, having their own personal server farm. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You buy all these servers and then you have to maintain them and all that. That doesn't make any sense when you get hosts that do it for you. And so Google has Google Workspace. iCloud has iCloud Plus, which allows custom email domains. And that's what I do my custom. So when you're emailing info@ttjtech.biz, you don't realize that you're actually emailing an iCloud email address because I have iCloud Plus and I've brought over or purchased the ttjtech.biz domain. And so, all the emails go through that, but it's Apple. That's iCloud, really. You're just not sending it to iCloud.com, but you kind of are. You just don't know it. Well, so because of the school district now, going back to my wife being a teacher, all of their stuff is done through Google on the back end. So that means their calendars are done through Google. And so if there's a PTA meeting or if there's a parent-teacher conference or if my wife has some other kind of obligation, that's going to be scheduled on a Google Calendar. So if she wants to use the Apple Calendar app, she can absolutely do so. But she's going to have to add her Google account to her settings and make sure that she leaves the calendars enabled on that Google account. If she doesn't, she will not see her school district events on her Apple Calendar. If she does leave calendars enabled on the Google account, they'll show up right alongside her personal events on the Apple Calendar. So there are cases where a person may want or need to have multiple calendars, multiple contacts accounts enabled. If that's not you, if you don't need to have multiple, I highly recommend turning everything off on all the other accounts except mail, and then just let iCloud do all the contact syncing, the calendar syncing, the reminders syncing. And again, for some of you, this is probably way beyond where you wanted to go today. And for others, this may be answering some questions and explaining things to you that you didn't previously understand. And that's why I went ahead and do that. Like I said, every year I wrestle with, do I bring it up this early? But I always end up doing it because, as I said, I can't even tell you how many customers we have had and students we've had who have run into this exact problem. They don't realize that they're using multiple kinds of accounts, and so one ends up being the default on one device, another one ends up being the default on a different device, and so consequently everything's all over the place, and their calendars are a mess, and they don't realize, or their contacts are a mess, and they don't realize that half of their contacts are in Google and half are in iCloud. Now, if you make sure everything's enabled, yeah, you can work that way. It's not, but it becomes a lot easier if you're willing to choose one. And I recommend iCloud. As an Apple user, if you don't have to use anything else, I wouldn't. And especially even if you need to use a Gmail address, turn off the other stuff and just let the mail on for Gmail, and then do everything else through iCloud. And so that brings me back now to my lists here, which everything is in iCloud.
Family, all iCloud, 499 contacts, button.
All right, so if I open that up by double tapping.
Section index adjustable.
Now you remember the section index, and the section index is something where that's where we can scroll alphabetically through this list because these are my contacts. They're going to be alphabetical, and you even have the choice if you go into settings, apps, and contacts. You can choose whether your contacts are sorted by last name first, and also whether they are presented by last name first. So my contacts are sorted by last name first, but they're displayed first name and then last name. If you're used to the traditional old phone books, you might not like that. My mom just to this day can't get used to that, so she's changed hers so that it shows like Smith, John, like you would have seen in a traditional phone book. In my case, if I have John Smith in there, he's going to appear in the S's, but he's going to show up as John Smith, not Smith, John. That I don't like that. So I like the first name first. So I have the sorting by last name, but displayed first name. So in my contacts now, I am in this particular list. If you only have one list, you're probably already in it as well. And you will notice a predictable pattern.
iCloud heading.
That at the upper left is a back button. If you don't have multiple lists,
lists, back button.
That's okay, but that's your back button. And then here at either the top right or the bottom right, I'm going to find a plus symbol. VoiceOver will say add.
A heading, add button.
Happens to be at the bottom right. And just to the left of that,
dictate button, search field.
is
Double tap to edit.
the search field where I can search my contacts, because remember, the search fields are at the bottom. And so bottom center of the screen is my search field. To the right of that is the add button. You also heard a dictate button in between there. That is the microphone icon that allows you to speak your searches if you want to. But you go to the right and you'll see,
Dictate
again, at
button.
the bottom right,
Add button.
the add button. And we will show you how to add. You double tap on that.
Add text field is editing. First name, character mode, insertion point at start.
Now,
First name, text field is editing. First name, character mode, insertion point at start.
we've not talked a lot about typing yet. We're going to get into advanced editing in a few weeks, but we've talked enough about typing that you could enter your contact's first name here. Notice you're already in the first name field. How do I know that? Because VoiceOver said is editing. And so we know we are editing. And we're in an edit field. If I swipe over to the last name field, it won't say is editing. It'll say double tap to edit. So if I want to start editing that field, I have to double tap. Listen, let's swipe.
Last name, text field. Double tap to edit.
See, but go to the left.
First name, text field is editing.
And it
First
says
name,
is
character
editing.
mode.
Now, is there anything else to the left of this?
Add photo button.
There is.
Image.
There's an add photo button.
Circle with a white circle in the center.
Now, there's many ways to add, well, I shouldn't say many. There's a few ways to add photos to your contacts. You can add one now, or if you start communicating with someone by text message and they have their own photo that you can choose to use that. They have these contact posters. They're really nice big images, and so we aren't going to deal too much with that right now, but you can add a photo there. And then here's the first name field.
First name, text field is editing.
My keyboard is up on the screen, so I can type John. We'll just do John Smith.
Captcha A-N.
Now I swipe up, I touch the upper middle of the screen here.
Last name, first name,
So there's,
text field is editing. John, clear text button.
Notice now to the right of that edit field is a clear text button. Instead of having to delete character by character, I could double tap on clear text and it will immediately remove everything that's in that edit field. That's a good thing to know. A lot of edit fields have that. We don't want to do that. We want to leave John in there and go to the right again.
Last name, text field.
I'm going to double tap to edit.
Double tap to edit. Insertion point at end.
Now notice.
Last name, text field is editing. Last name,
and I can
cap S-M-I-H.
Now I've typed Smith in there. So I touch the upper half of the screen above the keyboard. If I find the keyboard,
U, Smiths.
There's some right directly above the letters there.
U.
There's my letter U.
I.
There's my letter I. If I
India.
if I bring my finger straight up just a little,
I, Smiths.
I hear
Q.
Now I'm swiping to the left.
Smiths. Smith.
All right. It's got some predictions. You're going to learn more about that later when we talk about advanced editing, but you can start to know that now, that directly above the letters U, I, and O are your autocorrects, your suggestions, your predictions. This is called the quick bar, and it appears above the letters U, I, and O. The other way you can find it is to find the letter Q and then just swipe to the left.
Q.
See if I swipe left.
Smiths. Smith.
Right, it's there. Now, if I keep swiping left, I'm going to be taken to the very, very bottom of this contact card, and I don't want to do that. So I want to reach up higher and touch the upper middle of the screen, or upper left, maybe.
Close button.
The upper left has the close button. The upper right has
done button.
The done button, which will successfully add this contact card. Close will exit without saving. I don't want to do either yet because I don't have enough information in here. We have a first and a last name. If I swipe to the right,
add photo. First name, John. Last name, text field is editing. Smith, clear text button. Company, text field.
Now there's your company field.
Double tap to edit.
If John works for a particular company, I can add that here. If I want to only put a company and not a first or last name, I could have gone to that field as well, because that's available anytime. So if I only want to put Coca-Cola or Apple Incorporated or McDonald's or whatever, I can do that. Now if we keep going to the, or I can leave it blank, which is what I'm going to do in this case. Let's go to the right.
Add phone button.
Okay, you can add a phone number for John. Let's go to the right.
Add email button.
You can add an email for John.
Add pronouns button. Ringtone default. Text tone default. Add URL button. Add address button.
You can add URL, address. Notice these other things too. We can pick a custom ringtone for John so that when he calls, we know it's him. Or when he texts, we know it's him. And there's even an option in the phone ringtone and text tone choice called emergency bypass, which means if you turn that on, John's always going to be able to get through to you, even if your phone is on silent or if it's on do not disturb or anything like that. But we'll cover that topic more in a later session. But for now, just look at all these different things you can add, and we can keep going to the right, and we'll see even more.
Add birthday button.
There's the birthday one.
Add date button.
There's a date like an anniversary or something.
Add related name button.
Related name. That's how you determine. Remember, I had Carson as my son, Kylie as my daughter. So there's add related name. That's how you're going to do that. So all of these options that I was talking about are here. And there's even an option at the bottom called add field, which gives you tons and tons of more types of fields you can add. Things like nickname, middle name, suffix, all sorts of stuff that you can add that would be relevant to a particular contact. So let's just say we want to add a phone number for John. So we'll go back up higher here. I could swipe to the left repeatedly with one finger, but I'm just going to touch up higher because I know enough about this app to know.
Add birthday.
Okay,
button.
go to the left now, swipe some.
Add ring, add company, add phone button.
All right, you can have multiple phone numbers, but you start out with one. So we're double tap add phone.
Remove mobile text field is editing phone character mode insertion point at start.
Now what it did,
Actions available.
it already put me in the edit field for the first phone number, but notice that if I swipe to the left,
Mobile button.
it says
Activate to choose type. Swipe up or down to
okay.
select.
It says activate to choose type, and right now mobile is selected. I can choose a different type of phone number if I double tap on this button.
Text field is cancel button.
There's cancel. Let's go to the right and see what types we can choose.
Label, heading, edit button. Search field.
You can search for some.
Double tap dictate button. Selected. Mobile. Home. Work. School. iPhone. Apple Watch. Main. Home fax. Work fax. Pager. Other.
Look at all these choices. And then there's even some custom ones that I have used for other things.
Add custom label.
There's where you add a custom label, and there should be some custom ones to the right.
Emergency. Work mobile. Enable FVM plus. Disable FVM outgoing. Do not call. Work mobile. Private mobile. Private
Now,
mobile.
I didn't add all of those, but some of those, like I think our alarm company, one of the alarm companies we had at one time had like emergency or whatever. So you can add custom ones. I'm just going to say that we're going to add
Search field.
John's
Work. School.
iPhone number.
Text field is editing.
There's a sort of friendly debate in the industry. If the person has an iPhone, do you really have to call it an iPhone when you add, or will mobile suffice? The general answer is mobile will suffice. It really doesn't matter because the phone is smart enough and iOS is smart enough to know whether it's an iPhone when it matters, right? So if you put in a mobile number and it actually is an iPhone, it'll still treat it as an iPhone when it matters. Like, you know, when you send a message to an iPhone user, we haven't talked about this in this course yet, but some of you know when you send a message to an iPhone user, you get more features than when you send to a non-iPhone user. And similarly, your iPhone users can receive FaceTime calls and stuff. And so, yeah, it's going to know that anyway. So you don't really have to specify iPhone. Mobile will suffice. However, I, having said that, prefer to recognize that it's an iPhone when they are an iPhone, and I pick that. So that's what I've done here for John. So we're just going to make up a phone number for John. We're going to say his number. Notice I'm still in the edit field. I have a numeric keypad on the screen in a telephone style. So I'm going to say John's number is 202
202
555
555
1212.
1212.
And if I look up here,
Add photo, but add company, remove iPhone.
There's where I can remove what I've added.
iPhone button.
There's the label picker.
Activate to choose type.
And here's
Actions
his number.
Text field is editing. 202 555-1212. Character mode. Insertion point at end.
Now we're going to go to the right.
Clear text.
There's
button.
that clear text button, and
Actions
go
available.
to the right again.
Add phone button.
If I want to add a second phone number for John, a school, a work, a home, something else, I would go and add phone again, and it'll bring up a second phone number field where I can again choose the label and so on. So we can just keep doing this for as many phone numbers as John has. And then notice to the right now,
Add email button.
there's where we can add an email. And similarly, just like I'll just go ahead and show that to you.
Remove home text field is editing email character mode.
It already puts me in the edit field, and just to its left,
Home button.
there's a home button.
Activate to choose type.
That is the home email address. Again, you can have more than one. You can pick work, you can pick iCloud, you can pick there's all sorts of choices there too. And of course home being one of them. So we can, put in John
JOHN,
and the @ sign is going to be right here below the
B
B because we're
Bravo,
on
at John.
a special custom email keyboard that pops up. That's the beauty of having software on screen keyboards. And so it's john@jsmith.com. Oops.
JSMIOHARTH.
Delete that.
Period.
Period's on the same screen too.
Period.
And then we want to put .com. So
remove home. Home, but text field is editing. John@smith.com.
okay, that's his email. If I like this, I'm done with it. I can hit the done button at the upper right.
Done button.
That will add John to my contacts exactly as is. And if I want to keep going, I can put his birthday, related name. Again, I can do nickname by choosing the add field option. There's a lot of other things we can do. And the other option is if we don't want to add this at all, the cancel button is at the upper left.
Add photo. First name. John.
And so,
add photo. Done. New contact. Close. Button.
Actually, close, not cancel.
Close. Alert. Are you sure you want to discard this new contact?
Swipe to the right.
Discard changes. Button.
And again.
Q. Discard
Okay.
changes.
Now
But
notice,
Are you sure?
there's not a button that says no, I don't want to discard. There's only a discard button. So how would I dismiss this and not discard it so I can keep editing and eventually add it? Well, introducing the
Discard changes.
2-finger scrub.
Dismiss pop-up.
Because that's one way we can do this. The other way, if you tap sort of above what you'll learn, and this is a muscle memory thing, you'll learn that this, are you sure you want to discard changes? It's just a popover. It's not filling up the whole screen. There's other things on the screen. Below it is still the whatever edit field you were in. I still have my keyboard below it. It's kind of taking place on the sort of upper left of the screen is where that little popover is. And if I touch anywhere else, I can sort of tap off of that and you'll hear it say,
Dismiss pop-up.
Now,
Activate to dismiss pop-up window.
I can just double tap on that, and that is the same thing as saying, no, I don't want to discard. But there's also a gesture if you're not comfortable with where to tap, and that gesture is called the 2-finger scrub. We haven't taught that yet. Now, some people refer to that as a Z scrub, like Z as in zebra, and in fact, I think Apple refers to that. You really don't need to worry about a Z, okay? You don't even really need to think about that. It's basically the way I describe the 2-finger scrub. When I do it, I place 2 fingers on the screen, one slightly below the other, and I literally scrub sort of at an angle. But I don't even know if you really have to scrub at an angle, but I do. And when I say scrub, I mean it like picture a table in front of you, and you got a little spot on the table. Maybe it was a little bit of jelly or something, right? So you have a wet washcloth, and it's a very small spot, though. You're not cleaning the whole table right now. It's just a little spot you're concentrating your efforts on. And so you scrub back and forth real quickly on that little spot. That's essentially what we're doing here, and I will do it. And when I do it, you know that I'm doing it other than me telling you, but what it's going to do,
New contact heading.
See, it dismissed that discard screen and it says new contact. I'm back to editing John's information there. And you basically do it like 3 times, like quick, back and forth 3 times. All right, so this time I am going to
add to list button.
Notice add to list too at the bottom, which is how you can add John to an existing list or whatever. But notice that, and by the way, it will automatically get added to your all list, obviously, but this is if you want to add it to additional custom lists. I'm going to this time really close it, upper left.
Close alert.
And
discard changes button. Discard changes.
All right.
Lists. Back button.
So now I'm in my contacts. I didn't really add John Smith, but I do have a ton of other contacts. And so if I want to find one, again, I can use the search field at the bottom, or I can just swipe through them. This is a great opportunity to use your three-finger scroll gesture because you can move quickly through pages, or what's even better is the section index. So if I want to find contact information for trainer Sarah, I can use and I would actually be using her last name, which is going to be in the P section. So I'll use the section index to go to the letter P.
Section index cap B, cap C, cap D, cap M, cap P, selected.
Now I'll just sort of tap the lower half of the middle of the screen.
Ryan Paul.
And
Jess Pape, Pearson, Pedia, Perkins, Loretta Pep, Philo.
Got a lot of P letters here.
Mike P, Liz Pitt, Sarah Holt.
There she is.
Sarah Holtog.
And there she is. And so I can double tap on her contact.
Selected. Sarah Holtog.
Now you'll notice at the upper left of the screen is a back button. That's a predictable pattern, remember? So
iCloud, back button.
It'll take me back to my iCloud list. And then if I swipe to the right,
edit button.
There's an edit button where I can edit Sarah's information. I need to change something, add something, whatever. But if I keep going, here's her photo.
Default
and
P primary button.
I have 2 eSIMs on my phone, so it tells me that when I contact her, it's supposed to use the default line, which is primary.
Sarah Holtog. Message button.
There
pop-up button.
I can message her.
Call button.
Call her.
Button. Video button.
FaceTime.
Mail button.
Send her
pop-up button.
an email.
Contact photo and poster shared by Sarah button. Pop-up button.
There's the contact
Double
photo.
tap to activate the picker.
I guess you can change that there.
iPhone, home,
and
birthday.
Of course, I have multiple things about her. I'm not going to, read her information to you, but it's there. If I would have let the cursor on that when it said like iPhone or home or whatever, it would have read her phone numbers, her email addresses, and what have you. And here's her birthday information. And so we have that, and we can keep going.
Daughter, notes.
She has, her related names, and then the notes are private. If I want to put any notes about her, I don't have any notes, but
send message button.
Down at the bottom
button.
Again.
Share contact.
And notice.
Add to favorites button. Add to list. Add to emergency contacts. Share my location button. Block contact. SP.
Okay. Notice those.
Default. P.
Yeah.
Sarah Holtog. Message.
All right,
call,
that's good. Notice those things at the bottom there. You can add her to your emergency contacts. You can add her to, you can block her. You can, what else was I able to do? Share my location with her. I can add her to favorites. I can add her to, what was the other thing? Oh, to list. I can pick a list to add her to. And then notice the other one that I wanted to comment on, share contact. This is a quick way to share your contact info or anyone's contact info with someone else. And you can do that through messages, or there are other ways we haven't learned about yet, like AirDrop and so on. But the point I'm trying to make right now is that that's where that starts, share contact. And when you share a contact, we will actually show you how to do this later on in the course. But when you share a contact, you have the option of not sharing everything. Right? So, maybe I want to share Sarah's contact with somebody, but I only want to share her email address. I don't want to give the other people her home phone number or her personal iPhone number. I don't want to share her, physical address. All I want to share is her email address. So when you choose share contact, you have the option of selecting which things you want to share and which things you do not. And that is a very convenient thing. Now, I will say the other way, if it's really a consistent thing, like for me, because I also run TTJ Tech Services, I actually have 2 contact cards for myself. I have my personal one, which does have some of my work info also.
Screen dimmed.
But I actually have a separate contact card just for the business. So I can share completely that contact card. And there's a couple of different ways to do that, but know that that is an option. So when you do share a contact, you're not forced to share all the information on that contact card if you don't want to. So that's both how we find contacts and their information, and also how we add contacts. Now, as I said, there are more things we're going to talk about in later sessions. Like, we're actually going to show you how to share airdrop, name drop, different kinds of things like that. We're going to show you how to use things like emergency bypass to avoid, focus modes being impacting specific contacts and that sort of thing. So we'll deal with those things in later sections, either of the course, or we may have some special Tuesday sessions closer to Christmas time. We'll just see as that approaches. But all of this stuff is relevant to adding and maintaining proper contact cards for yourself and for everybody else in your contact list. So what if I do want to have, mom and dad? What I would do is I'd add them as individuals first, two separate contact cards. I'd add their names first and last. And then what I'd do is I'd use the related name field. Remember, it said related name, so I can specify that that person is my mom, that person is my dad. And by the way, you can even use SIRI to do that. You can hold down the side button and say, using that same name, we'll just say, John Smith is my dad. So you literally can hold down the side button and tell SIRI, John Smith is my father, John Smith is my dad, and she'll remember that. So it can be done either way. The other way some people do it is they'll use nicknames, and the nickname field I can put mom, I can put that. So there's multiple ways, but always make sure that the contact card has an actual first and last name in each field, because that's very important to make sure that you're not it's just going to make sure that you're not confused later, or when you try to find someone, that's the proper way to do it. So what we've done now, let me get back to this.
2:55 p.m. iCloud back button.
And I've gone ahead and I've added I've shown you how to add a contact and shown you the proper procedures for that. I'm going to wait to talk about the phone app until Wednesday, and we'll see our contacts we'll put them in use there. But I am going to go ahead and start one quick tabbed app demonstration just to show you can start exploring, because the phone app is a tabbed app, but there's another one I'm going to start with, and that's the clock. And the clock uses tabs. So when we talk about an app being a tabbed app, what we mean is that there is a tab bar across the bottom of the screen that has multiple tabs. Each tab that you pick is a different category and provides different functionality for the rest of the screen above the tab bar. So let's go, for example, to the clock.
Home, notes, weather, remind, clock, 2:56 p.m.
Double tap. Now,
clock, edit, button.
I'm going to touch the bottom left of the screen, and you'll hear that there's a tab bar.
Tab bar, world clock, tab, 1 of 4.
And if I swipe to the right,
selected, alarms, tab, 2, stopwatch, tab, 3 of timers, tab, 4 of 4.
So you notice that this app has 4 tabs in it: world clock, alarms, timers or stopwatch, and then timers. You also notice it said that alarms is selected. So if I touch up higher on the screen, everything on the screen has to do with the alarms.
Edit, alarms, heading, add, button. Sleep vertical line, wake up, head, 11
and there's my
change, button.
Wake up alarm, and then I have other alarms that I can turn on and off based upon ones I've used in the past.
Other, heading, 6:10 a.m., alarm, switched button, off.
That's a toggle.
Double tap to toggle setting.
And I have others
actions
if I keep swiping to the right. And there's actions, swipe up or down.
Edit, trash, activate, default.
So you can edit that alarm, you can delete it, okay, so all of these alarms are here. But notice now if I go to the bottom of the screen and I choose stopwatch, for example.
Tab bar, stopwatch, tab.
Now the whole rest of the screen will not have alarms, it'll have the stopwatch.
0 seconds. Lab, dimmed, start, button. Page 1 of 2, digital stopwatch, adjustable.
Swipe up.
Page 2 of 2, analog stopwatch.
So there's an analog and a digital. Notice all these different stopwatch controls, nothing about alarms. And same thing if I go down and pick timers.
Tab, timers, tab.
Now notice.
Cancel, dimmed, timers, heading, 0 hours, picker item,
that's
adjustable,
that's
1 of 24.
So you can swipe up.
Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
Right, that's a picker for how many hours is on the timer.
1 minute, picker item,
there's the minute picker.
0 seconds, picker item,
seconds,
start, button.
There's the start button.
Label,
and there's a label.
Timer, text field.
So
when timer ends, radio button.
I can even choose what happens when the timer ends. And you can set sleep timers that way. You can pick different sounds or music.
Recents heading.
And then it even has recent timers.
Recents heading. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour.
These are different times, and I apparently didn't label any of these, but the label is useful if you do have multiple timers going at once, because, one might be your pizza timer and another one might be your laundry timer, or, things of that nature. And so you can play with this clock app on your own. I don't need to go into great detail to show it to you, but I did want to explore the tab bar. So again, the whole concept of a tab bar is that there are multiple tabs across the bottom. You pick the one that you want, and it affects everything else that is on the screen. Whichever tab you've chosen is what's going to show up on the rest of the screen. We showed alarms, we had timers, we had stopwatch, and you can use that. Now the iPad tends not to have bottom tab bars anymore. It will either have like a floating tab bar across the top, or a portion of the top of the screen that appears when you need it, or it will have a sidebar, which a sidebar is like a horizontal bar that goes along the left side of the iPad screen. When we do our actual iPad course, we will definitely, focus on that a lot more. You're not really going to see that on the iPhone. You're mostly going to see tab bars. One of the things I will say about the tab bars is that they tend not to always be present in iOS 26. They may go away until you need them. Well, you say, well, how does the system know that I need them? Well, usually with VoiceOver, if you just touch the bottom of the screen, the tab bar is there. It really is not a big deal. If you ever find that you're touching the bottom of the screen and you're getting content and not the tab bar, what I would encourage then is try a 4-finger single tap near the bottom of the screen, preferably the bottom right. Or you can do your 3-finger swipe up, and that will bring you further down on whatever page or whatever screen that it is. But again, that's usually not an issue when you're using VoiceOver. It's more of a non-VoiceOver kind of sighted user thing, where the idea is to hide the tab bar until it's actually needed, therefore giving you more screen real estate. And that does sometimes happen with VoiceOver, but it's just when you touch down there, it just kind of knows that that's what you're looking for, and it just tends to bring it up. I think I only found one case where I was using Safari, and I touched the bottom of the screen to find the address and search field, and it just didn't appear right away, so I had to do that 4-finger single tap and scroll down a little bit, and it was there. I mean, it was fine. It just, so just be aware of that. But typically the tab bars appear at the bottom of the screen when they're needed, and we're going to spend a lot more time on that, because on Wednesday we're going to show you the phone app, which has tabs and so forth. I don't think I really want to go any further today, because I don't want to overwhelm you, but we're definitely going to want to say one other thing. I really need you to understand something. When we talk about these apps, I'm going to do the best I can to give you tours of the apps, to show you some of the really cool features and a lot of the functionality. But as you can imagine, there's no possible way we could do that with every app and every situation. It would just be extremely too time consuming. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to make things easier for you that you don't want to miss out on. For example, you can set in the clock app that we just very briefly took a look at, you can set alarms, and you can name those and pick different sound effects or even music for each alarm. And you can now even adjust the snooze duration, right? For decades, it's always been 9 minutes on every type of alarm clock, right, that supported the feature. Well, no, it doesn't have to be. I think it can be anywhere between 1 and, I don't know if it's 20 or 1 and 10, I don't remember. But you can pick the snooze duration for each alarm, or whether it's even a snoozable alarm if you want. And, with the stopwatch, you can have lap time, you can have digital or analog. We talked about multiple timers with names to them, lots of world clock, clocks from different time zones, and if you're traveling, that can be useful. And then, to take the alarms even further, you can use the health app to create an actual sleep schedule with its own unique wake-up alarm, and those have different sound effects even than the ones in a clock. My point in all of this is, how am I going to find this information? Combination of things. We've talked about them before. The Tips app, the iPhone user guide, whatever what have you. These are the best ways to do that. And of course, come to our Tuesday and Saturday sessions, because we can certainly give you tidbits if you have specific questions.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Have an additional comment or feedback? Email us info@ttjtech.biz or info@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. And remember, subscribe to the newsletter when you're there. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming announcements or events. Thanks for joining us. God bless, and see you next time.